Hello and welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the vlog, welcome back to the car, welcome back to Cornwall, welcome back to, it's summer, it's 20 degrees outside, and well, it's finally stopped raining. It's been raining for the last 2 weeks. We have 1 day of sun and then 2 weeks of rain down here on the peninsula, on the island. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about and what I wanted to get into immediately was something that's been bothering me for a very long time. And that's story writing, specifically in science fiction, but in Hollywood in general. Films and television. If you've been a part of this channel for any period of time, you'll know that I love films and TV. I really, really love science fiction. Like, science fiction is my jam. When I was a child, I would watch everything that had a spaceship in it. Button Moon, yeah, you know it. The Next Generation, yeah, I was all about Star Trek TNG. But modern science fiction has some huge, huge flaws, huge holes. And I'm going to get very negative about them. I'm going to sound very je ne sais quoi. So before we get into that, I just want to position myself. I just want to give people an idea of where I'm coming from. And where I'm coming from is I make videos for YouTube. Funny little videos, gameplay videos. We play video games, we talk about stuff over the top of them. When I'm not doing that, I'm an image editor. I work in Photoshop and obviously work in Premiere and various audio editing things as well. And for fun, I write short stories. And currently I'm writing horror stories because they're an interesting thing to write. And I tend to write from the position of a female protagonist. So I write from the point of view of a lady in a story and horror is happening. Now, why do I do that? Well, 2 reasons. It just feels natural to do that. And the other reason is that a lot of people who read horror and crime fiction are in fact female, so it just makes sense to have female protagonists. I do like having realistic female protagonists. I have one in one story who is excited by the prospect of having pockets in her dress. She's wearing a dress and she has pockets. And she really likes those. She puts bottles in them. At one point she puts a pry bar in them, which is like a smaller crowbar. I mean, yeah, she's definitely an interesting character. But characters don't exist in a vacuum, and I can't write in a vacuum. When I've written a horror story, what I tend to do is put it into a PDF and send it off to my sisters, because my sisters really like horror. And I'll get notes back, because that's what you do when you write. You give it to someone you trust who is interested in that genre, and they come back with notes. My favorite note was, "I didn't think you had it in you." Oh yeah, I think that was the first story that I wrote. That was one that was pretty bleak. It was fun, it was an interesting story, and the characters were natural, and the characters that had conversations had natural conversations. I wanted to be realistic as possible, but also be fun and horrific, because that's horror. I have had notes back saying, I don't think the character would act this way. Maybe she needs like another attempt to escape, or maybe she needs, there's something missing. And I'm like, okay, cool. And that's not operating in a vacuum. That is writing something you think is going to be cool and interesting, and then having somebody read it and go, slight problem there, old bean. Although the story is good and I'm quite happy with it, I don't think your character would, in fact, act in this particular way at this moment in this story. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, we can modify, we can adapt, we can improvise and overcome. Which is where I'm coming from. I write, I do video, I'm kind of skirting the field of film and television, but not really dipping my toes into that area. But I will say, as a fan of sci-fi, I quite like Star Trek, but I also quite like Star Wars. Star Wars is one of those now television, but it was one of those film series that when it came out, it blew everyone's minds. The original Star Wars film, which was just called Star Wars. Oh my dude, are you stopping there? It would appear that you are? Okay. The original Star Wars film came out and it was just called Star Wars. It wasn't called A New Hope when it was originally released. Let's check left, check right. We gotta do this. They're having a picnic. Oh no, they're not. They're broken down. I was like, that's a weird place to start. He's turning off. Okay, let us go. Oh, I think we're just gonna scoot around everyone. Neat. It's trouble when you're driving and doing a vlog. The driving comes first. Anyway, yeah, the original Star Wars was just called Star Wars, and then it was renamed to Episode 4, A New Hope. And I've said it before, but some people might not know that it's a good story. It's a very good story. It has Luke Skywalker, who starts off as a farm boy, and he's doing farm boy things. He's interested in going to Tosche Station to pick up power converters. He's got a life. He already has a life, which is, I mean, it's good for him. He already has some skills. He can fly a speeder. We know he can fly a T-16. And this just comes out like occasionally in dialogue, and the fact that he actually does these things in the film. But he is caught up in a galactic rebellion. He's caught up on the side of what apparently is the good side, but he's brought into something that is bigger than himself. And he's not alone. There's a wise old mystic in the form of a Jedi, a space wizard with a laser sword, if you want to put it simply. There's a princess. There's the comic relief in the form of the androids. There's a scoundrel, a rogue type figure in Han Solo and Chewbacca. And they all have somewhere where they need to be. They have things that need to happen. And no one person can do that by themselves. No one person is strong enough to take on the evil galactic empire by themselves. That would be a fool's errand, and they would get squashed quite rapidly. It is actually based on Akira Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress. If you go and watch Akira Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress, and then you go and watch Episode 4, A New Hope, it's basically the same film. Of course, one's set in feudal Japan, and the other one is set in space, in a galaxy far away, long time ago. But yeah, no one character, and Luke has a journey, and his journey goes from farm boy to Jedi Knight. He becomes one of those space wizards. He becomes something that's bigger than himself in order to help out his friends, in order to help out the people around him, and ultimately in order to change the fate of the galaxy that they live in. He cannot do everything straight away. You see times when he is, let's turn this off. You see times when he is training. We might need to go back a little bit. There we go. Just the cost of living in the countryside, I'm afraid. There we go. Dog, we're coming through. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, he trains. Old Ben Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, has him training with his father's lightsaber. His father's lightsaber has provenance. It has a history unto itself. There is something there that other characters know about. They've met. They've had these adventures, and he has to be trained in the ways of the Force. The Force has to be explained to him. Like, his father was a powerful Jedi, and this possibly runs through your family line, your bloodline. And he doesn't know that at the beginning the princess is actually his sister. He's related to her. That's not even explained to him. And there's a bit of, will they, won't they romance? And And it's like, maybe you shouldn't do that because, you know, as the story progresses, that person there is, you're definitely related to them. And it's an interesting story. It's a good story. And it's one that takes place over quite a long period of time. Now, when it comes to the Disney Star Wars, specifically the TV series, The Acolyte, and the Disney trilogy of films, all of that character creation, all of that character growth, all of that setup and payoff goes out of the window. There is a huge drive in Hollywood, and I'm going to say Los Angeles specifically, to have very strong, very female characters forefront and center to any story. And in the trilogy of films that Disney recently released, Star Wars Disney trilogy, you have Rey, played by Daisy Ridley. Now, I really like Daisy Ridley for two reasons. I like Daisy as a name because of Spaced. I just like Daisy as a name is one of those names that, like, if I hear that someone's got it, it's just, I like it. I just really like that name. And I think she's a good actress. When it comes to Rey as a character, the character she plays in the Star Wars trilogy, the Disney Star Wars trilogy, Rey is about as interesting as a slice of cardboard. She can do everything immediately, straight away. She's introduced the Force, and it's like, oh, the Force, you say? I can force FaceTime now. I can force transmit stuff with the Force. I can bring people back to life because it's really simple. I can do all of this stuff. Yeah, maybe. I mean, when you learn who her dad is, then actually, possibly. But she's just doing stuff when the script requires her to do stuff. She has no character growth. She has no flaws. She has nothing that she fails at. She jumps on board the Millennium Falcon and Han Solo's there like, oh yeah, we got a problem. And she's like, oh, I fixed it. What? Why would you fix? This person has owned the ship for a long time. It's like someone jumping into my car and saying, oh, the stereo's not on. Boop, fixed it. And I'm like, yeah, cool. You could have blown up the engine, but sure, I guess. Yeah, she has no character growth. She is a strong, independent woman who don't need no other characters to rely on. I was gonna say man, but seriously, she just don't need no one to rely on. And that is a problem with Hollywood, specifically the new writers in Hollywood. Same thing in The Acolyte. You have twins, you have OSHA, which is a terrible name because every time I hear OSHA, I think of violation, which is the American Health and Safety Board. You have an OSHA violation, which is, in Star Wars, that's huge. I mean, there's plenty of walkways without railings. They're all OSHA violations. And May, and I'm like, okay, cool. It's the same actress playing two different characters, but they're not interesting characters. They're kind of boring. And there's been a bit of controversy with The Acolyte, being there's a lot of strong female characters. And there's strong female characters, and the men are just punching bags. No, the actors are just not very good, and the story's not very good. And it's worse. The worst thing that The Acolyte does, Star Wars, The Acolyte, the TV series, is that it's just boring. It is so boring. Because stuff happens as the script needs it to happen. In episode 3, a building burns down. A building the size of a condo, of an apartment complex. It's huge, it's seemingly made of stone, and somebody drops the equivalent of a Molotov cocktail in it. Why does the whole place explode and set on fire? There's no setup and payoff. There's no reason for the whole place to go up in flames. A character just says, I hate you and I think you should die now. And it's just like, wait, what? Where was the setup? Where was the setup? Why are we getting this as the payoff? And why is all this stone building now on fire and everyone on the inside dies? Is there no fire suppression system? I know this is a galaxy far, far away. I know this is actually the High Republic. We don't really see much of the High Republic in the new TV series. What's going on? Why would somebody just stay in a building that's on fire and die? It makes no sense. And I think in the first or second episode, I think it's actually first and second episode, a character who is wearing indoor clothes, so she's wearing indoor clothes, and she is on a spaceship, and her spaceship crashes, and she is still wearing her indoor clothes on a planet made of ice and snow. At no point does she say, "Oh, bloody hell, it's cold. Ooh, it's a bit nippy. Oh, it's freezing me buns off here." No, she's just wandering around as if she's on a soundstage, as if she is on the Volume, which is a LED soundstage. It's a very clever bit of kit, but once you know people are using it, you can kind of see it. And it's like, okay, right, suspension of disbelief and all, but that wouldn't fly in other science fictions. And she survives a crash, which should have killed her. I mean, the actual ship crashing should have just destroyed her spine. She gets up, shakes herself off, and she's like, "I'm fine." Like, she has no character flaws. This is OSHA. She has no character flaws. She has no like character growth. Things just happen, and she doesn't need anyone around her to support her. At one point, one of the other characters, because they think she's a criminal, says, "You have a gun. We're gonna have to take that gun off you." And then nobody says anything about it, and she's just left with this giant ass gun. It's just like, "Oh, I needed to protect myself." And they're like, "We think you might be a murderer, but okay, whatever." Oh god, and in episode 1, the first episode, there is a crime that's committed, people die, and then there's this character who almost dies, but there's a kid that hugs his leg, and the person who's about to kill him goes, "I won't kill you because you've got a child." In the next scene, they go to this, who they think is the criminal, and they take that guy with them, the eyewitness. They take him with them, and they take them on board a starship into this person's room who they think is a murderer. And it's like, oh yeah, no, that's the murderer. If I was a witness to a murder and that person had threatened my life, I'd be like, mate, I am not getting on board the same spaceship as this person, let alone the same room. They could do a murder on all of us. It's like super bad writing. It's super bad writing. It's impossibly bad writing. There are other examples of bad writing in modern sci-fi. The new Star Trek films by J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams does not know how to finish anything off. First 15 minutes of 2016 Star Trek is great. Everything else is ass. He starts stuff and then he doesn't know how to end it. And if you want a good example of that, watch the TV series Lost. It just doesn't finish. It just kind of stops. It's appalling. But yeah, interpersonal conflicts, character conflicts. Everyone is getting sassy with each other. Everyone is just getting angry with each other. Uhura is just an absolute cow to everyone. It's just really weird. Compared to original Star Trek, where Gene Roddenberry said none of the characters should have interpersonal conflicts, everyone should get on. This is the future. This is the future. And when it comes to diversity in Star Trek, like, you have strong female characters. You have Uhura on the bridge, which is amazing for the time period that it was filmed in. The original series had not only a woman in a position of power on the bridge, but also a woman of colour. And you know what? It wasn't really mentioned. It wasn't brought up. It just happened. In the same way as, even though the original series was filmed during the Cold War, they had a Russian on the bridge. Wait, Chekhov was a Russian? Yeah, Chekhov was a Russian. He was there as a Russian guy on the bridge of a starship during a time when the Cold War was going on and everyone was kind of afraid of the Russians. It's like, was it ever really mentioned? No. Did he just do his job the same way as Uhura? Yeah. These things just happened. It's not mentioned. There's no like virtue signaling. These characters are not there to signal virtue. These things were just written in because that's the logical thing for them to happen. And then Whoopi Goldberg is so inspired by seeing Uhura on the bridge of the Enterprise that when they were filming The Next Generation, she said, I want to be in Star Trek. You know, I've seen Uhura. She was a massive inspiration to me. I want to be there. And the producers were like, okay, cool. Because Whoopi Goldberg at the time, her star was on the rise. She'd just done Ghost, which was a film with Patrick Swayze. And they did not believe that she really genuinely wanted to be on Star Trek. In fact, one of the things that she had to phone back and say, by the way, have you given it any more thought? And they were like, oh, you're serious. But because she was doing films at the time, they needed to get her in a way that she could be there for some episodes and not others. So they created the character of Guinan, and then they created 10 Forward. So the bar in 10 Forward that's on pretty much all Starfleet ships was created because Whoopi Goldberg wanted to be in Star Trek, and that was basically the only way they could have her in as a permanent character, but have her there, like work around her film schedule. But again, it's one of those things, like her skin color and her gender was not really mentioned. And then you get to Star Trek Discovery and it's all crying and gender and skin color, and it's just like, guys, I know you guys want diversity and equality, but look to the past. It's been done, and it's been done well. Star Trek Discovery is impossible to watch. It is just ass. It is really bad writing, and I can go into it, but I'm not going to because we'll be here for hours. There is a science fiction series that is perfect in terms of diversity, in terms of female and male characters working together, in terms of conflict, in terms of resolution, in terms of character growth, in terms of just an interesting and fun series of stories. And that is Farscape, which went on from 1999 to 2004. I believe there was also the Peacekeeper Wars, the films that were added afterwards. Farscape is amazing. Farscape is just absolutely amazing. The ship, Moya, is female. She's a living ship, and you are on board with Moya, and then there's Pilot, who is essentially acts as the voice of Moya. He's a symbiont implanted in to Moya, and they work together, and he's voiced by I can't remember his actual name. He's actually Samoan, of Samoan descent, and if you want diversity, I don't know many Samoans outside of maybe Flight of the Conchords in television and film. Oh, is this person actually... Oh, they were indicating to turn, but they're moving very slowly. I don't know what's going on here. Something's going on here. Neat. Yeah, outside of Flight of the Conchords. The thing about Farscape is a lot of the actors are either from New Zealand or Australia. I thought it was American. No, Australian, my dudes. A lot of the outdoor scenes are filmed in Australia, or all the extras are Australian or from New Zealand. Or maybe even Tasmania. Does Tasmania count as its own place? Which is amazing. I mean, it's great. It's fantastic. But you take Aaron Sun. Aaron Sun, played by Claudia Black. Claudia Black, who can read the phone book to me all night, and I will just, oh, god damn, her voice is amazing. And she plays Officer Aaron Sun, a peacekeeper. A peacekeeper who is, I mean, the peacekeepers are basically like Germany, 1939 to 1945. They keep the peace by shooting people until those people can't be bad guys anymore. And in, I think it's the first episode, she has a little confrontation with John Crichton. John Crichton is fired through a wormhole, and he ends up with Moya and the crew, and they are escaping. They are all prisoners on board. Essentially, Moya's a prison transport, and they have conflicts. They all want to go home. They all have drives and people that they want to go and visit. They work together because they need to, but you get the feeling that at the beginning, at least, not so much at the end, but at the beginning, they would quite happily stab each other in the back. But Claudia Black's character, Erin Sun, she has an interesting arc because her people don't show vulnerability, they don't show weakness, they don't really show emotion. They're a militaristic society, and by being aboard Moya, by being separated from her people, she is introduced to the concept of these emotions, of these weaknesses, and she can't go through every problem. She can't shoot every problem away with a blaster. She has to listen to the people around her. She has to gain trust with the people around her. And it's a journey. It doesn't even get resolved by the end of the first season. It is a journey that takes quite a while. And she is an interesting character. Moya herself has a baby. Like, Moya is pregnant at the beginning of Farscape. The ship that they are on has a baby. And it's not weird, it's not uncomfortable. You have Pilot, and he's saying, you know, something that you have done, one of the characters has done, is broken a seal, and now the baby is gestating, it's coming. That becomes Talon. And it's like, oh, okay, the ship that we're on is not only going to be a mum, but she has all of these like motherly tendencies and things that go on like biologically, and we've got to help out, otherwise this is not going to be great for anyone. And it's such a good series. Like Erin having to learn that she can rely on other people, that she can be emotional around other people and is not a sign of weakness. Or Zan's a plant. Like Zan, the big blue lady with the bald head, she's an actual plant. I don't think you find out her nature until season 2, but it's certainly during season 1. There are times when she reacts to sunlight in the way that a plant would. She's like, oh, sunlight, this is amazing. This is great. And all the other characters know, except for John. John doesn't know about this. Yeah, Farscape is a perfect encapsulation of science fiction where you have strong female and strong male characters who have vulnerabilities, who have weaknesses, who have to learn how to trust each other, who have to learn about how life goes on aboard this ship called Moya, how they have this overwhelming presence in the Peacekeeper force which is hunting them down. Initially, because this insane commander wants to kill John because John accidentally killed the commander's brother just by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He didn't do it. He just appeared out of a wormhole and this guy flew into an asteroid. And then later on, Scorpius, played by Wayne Pygram. And then Scorpius turns up and he's a bad dude. Skin color is not really brought into it. Everyone's blue or orange, or they got hair or they not got hair, or like Virginia Hay goes around for most of it with no hair. She, in real life, has long blonde hair, and you've seen her in Mad Max the Road Warrior. Yeah, it's never really mentioned. Like, things just happen, and then later on, Chiana joins the crew, who seems like a badass lady who don't need no man, but is actually terrified that her own people will take her away and just wipe her brain. Her individuality will be taken away from her. She's absolutely scared, and it takes a while for her to trust not only the crew of Moya and everyone there, but to actually form bonds and relations with everyone. It is a series that evolves not over episodes, but over entire story arcs, over their entire seasons. It is perfect storytelling. And it was so perfect that when they cancelled it, they actually had to do a film, the Peacekeeper Wars. They had to finish up with a film just to tie off all of the storylines. It is a great example, and it was so influential that when James Gunn directed Guardians of the Galaxy, that was his influence for Guardians of the Galaxy, was Farscape. So much so that I believe Ben Browder, who plays John Crichton in Farscape, actually has a cameo in the background. That's how influential Farscape actually is. That's how you do science fiction. That's how you be inclusive. And that's how you write strong female characters who are flawed. Because everyone is flawed. I'm flawed. You're flawed. Everyone has their flaws. And it's those things that make the characters more appealing, more interesting, more je ne sais quoi. One person can't do everything. One person can't pick up a lightsaber and immediately know how to use it. One person can't immediately know how to use the Force. And not only that, have Force powers that we've never seen before. Disney's Star Wars is bad because the characters are just written badly. It is not the fault of the actors. The actors are good people. The actors are amazing, and if you've seen them in other things, then they're great. Daisy Ridley, good actress, really good actress. And I hope to see her in other things. I hope being in Star Wars has not affected her career. And the same thing for the guy from Squid Game, whose name I should know because I've looked it up, but he's in The Acolyte, and I'm hoping that doesn't affect his career. I'm hoping that eventually everything goes good for those guys, because the story that they're working with is absolutely appalling. The Acolyte is just, at its core, kind of boring. And at worst, it is just a bad example of story writing. They got a healthcare there, healthcare van, and I know what that is. That's for checking your chest if you happen to be a lady. Really? Yeah, that's the NHS, the National Health Service. So the National Health Service puts up these lorries every now and again, and if you're a lady, you can go along. I think it's a drop-in thing, and they do a little scan on your chest to make sure nothing bad's going on. Done. Cool. Weird. Excellent. Now, everyone wanted to talk about that for a while. We didn't get into Star Trek Discovery because Star Trek Discovery is just a whole can of worms which goes against the initial premise of what Gene Roddenberry had for Star Trek. Star Trek was supposed to have no interpersonal conflicts. It was supposed to be a future where everyone worked together and it was good. And Discovery is just ass. The episode where they have a quantum torpedo stuck in their hull and it goes bang and it'll blow out the whole saucer section, and the resolution is a person closes themselves in the room with the quantum torpedo, seals the door, they call it a blast door, the torpedo goes off, the person dies, but because the door is closed, everything's okay. It's just bad story writing, and I put it down to Hollywood. I put it down to Los Angeles and the worldview of Los Angeles not being what the actual world is like. I think Los Angeles has got to bugger off in order for good storytellers to come forward and write good stories. And as a person who writes horror stories with female protagonists who are realistic and interesting, I want to see more pockets and dresses. I want to see more women doing what women can do. Being strong, but also having that vulnerability there. Faye from Cowboy Bebop, the cartoon, not the TV series, was a strong female protagonist who had a massive vulnerability. She woke up after being in stasis, a child, something happened to her, and she has a long journey where she has to learn how to trust people again. All the people in her school, the people that she grew up with, are now old women in wheelchairs. She has a lot going on. She's a super interesting character who is presented like a femme fatale who just uses her body to con people out of money. But Faye from Cowboy Bebop, the anime, is a flawed and interesting character. And she has a character arc and character growth. And that's what's missing from modern storytelling. It's that character arc, it's the character growth, and it's people acting like people. You can't be too strong, and you can't just do everything on the first try. You've got to have flaws, you've got to have weaknesses, and you've got to learn how, like, who is your friends and who's going to help you. We can be on this all day, but that was a long old vlog, and I'm happy we got to talk about it. And yeah, if you've never seen Farscape, you're missing a treat. Farscape is, oh gosh, it is so good. And Claudia Black can talk to me anytime about anything. I will listen. Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, if you like these series, definitely leave a little like. Leave a subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. If you want notifications, dingle the bingle. If you don't want notifications, don't click the bell. If you want to support the channel, you can click the coffee link. Some of you have, and it really does help. It goes towards just electricity at the moment. Also, there is a monthly goal. If we do hit $100 in a month, then I'll write a short story. It'll probably be horror, and I'll read it out on the channel. Otherwise, thank you for joining me. It's been a long one, and I hope you're all keeping safe. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you're all keeping out of the heat, the people that are in the heat, or keeping warm the people who are in the cold. I'll catch you next time.